Captain Marcus Klein had encountered many peculiar situations during his service aboard the intergalactic trade ship, the Stellar Voyager. He'd witnessed radiant nebulae that hummed with eerie melodies, trade arguments over radioactive fruit, and even a two-headed diplomat attempting to bribe its second head. But none of these experiences could compare to the escalating turmoil in the Galactic Council's diplomatic lounge. "Is this your species' idea of humor?" growled Ambassador Drax, a towering being from the Zirian lizard-like race, his intense emerald eyes narrowing at the tiny glass in his clawed hands. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his laid-back smile masking the tension in the room. "Not humor, Ambassador. Hospitality. You wanted to learn about human drinks, so here we are." Before Drax stood a pristine collection of bottles, each representing a different aspect of humanity's deep love for spirits: beer from Germany, whiskey from Scotland, rum from the Caribbean. Marcus had scoured the ship's supplies to present the finest examples Earth had to offer. Drax growled, a low sound emanating from his throat. "And this," he said, holding up a glass of bourbon as if it were toxic waste, "is the peak of your craftsmanship?" "It's not bad," Marcus replied diplomatically, still studying the ambassador. "But perhaps we're just easing into the good stuff." The room buzzed with intrigue. Delegates from across the galaxy had gathered, eager to witness this curious ritual. While diplomatic summits often included cultural exchanges, the humans' proposed alcohol symposium had sparked unexpected curiosity. The Gorn, a reptilian species, sniffed the bourbon with suspicion before taking a cautious sip. His vertical pupils dilated, and his scaly lips curled back in disgust. "Weak," he declared, slamming the glass down with enough force to make the human delegation flinch. Marcus nodded slowly, "Fair enough. Bourbon's not for everyone." He stood and moved toward the display. "How about vodka?" The room hummed with excitement. A gelatinous being from the Tethian system bubbled with excitement, while a bird-like Zek fluffed its feathers in disdain. Marcus poured a measure of vodka, its clear liquid gleaming like distilled moonlight. Drax downed it in one swift gulp, his eyes widening slightly before he quickly masked his reaction with a huff. "I've tasted stronger fermentation runoff from my ship's waste processor," he sneered. "Interesting," Marcus said, unfazed. "But that was just the appetizer. How about this?" With a flourish, he presented a bottle of tequila, its green glass shimmering under the soft lights of the lounge. "You'll notice," Marcus said as he poured the drink, "this one has a more complex profile." Drax took the glass without hesitation and tossed the tequila back as if it were water. For a brief moment, a flicker of enjoyment crossed his face, but it quickly vanished as he remembered his pride. "Is this the best you have, human?" he snarled. Marcus suppressed a smile. He'd been saving the big guns for last. "Not quite, Ambassador. But I'm glad you asked." From beneath the table, he retrieved a bottle that was as unassuming as it was infamous, Everclear. A collective hush fell over the room. "What is that?" demanded a wiry, crystalline Cian delegate, its voice ringing like wind chimes in a storm. "This," Marcus said, holding the bottle aloft, "is Everclear. The strongest commercially available spirit from Earth, nearly pure ethanol." Drax leaned forward, his nostrils flaring. "Pure ethanol, you say? Sounds like a drink for hatchlings. Pour me some." Marcus hesitated. Ambassador, you might want to dilute this one. It's potent." "Are you implying I can't handle it?" Drax's scales bristled, and several nearby delegates gasped in collective shock. James raised both hands in mock surrender. "Not at all. Just a friendly warning. Humans don't even drink it straight unless they're, well, unwise." Reluctantly, Marcus filled the ambassador's glass with a measured amount. The fumes alone made several aliens recoil. Before Marcus could intervene, Drax raised the glass to his lips and took a defiant sip. The sip lasted only a moment. As soon as the fiery liquid hit his tongue, Drax's jaw clenched, and his scaled throat convulsed in a desperate, reflexive attempt to reject the intruder. The glass slipped from his claws and shattered on the floor, but the sound was drowned out by the wheezing, choking noise that erupted from him. "Ambassador?" Marcus asked, leaning forward cautiously. Drax's face twisted in a grimace of pure agony. His emerald eyes were wide, as though they were twin suns. He clawed at his chest, his nostrils flaring as he gasped for air. This is... He rasped, his voice cracking. "Oh boy," Marcus muttered, stepping closer. "Somebody get water, and maybe a bucket." Before anyone could react, Drax doubled over, releasing a strangled roar that startled everyone in the room. His tail thrashed violently, knocking over a table full of drinks and scattering bottles across the polished floor. A faint, acrid scent of ethanol mixed with the metallic tang of panic. "Is he dying?" a trembling THX delegate asked, its translucent body rippling like a disturbed pond. "Not if I can help it," Marcus said grimly. He reached for Drax's shoulder but quickly pulled back as the Zirian whipped his head around, baring his fangs like a cornered animal. "Ugh," Drax began, his voice a hoarse growl, but whatever insult or accusation he was about to deliver was cut off by another violent cough. His entire frame shuddered, and he collapsed into the nearest chair, his tail limply curling around its legs. "Breathe, buddy," Marcus said, crouching beside him. "You're okay. It's just really strong, like paint stripper strong." Drax gasped, his forked tongue flicking out as if tasting the air might somehow save him. "This is poison," he managed to choke out, his voice weak. Marcus shook his head. "Not poison. Just ethanol. Humans drink it all the time." The room erupted in murmurs. "You consume a substance this corrosive? How are you not extinct?" a crystalline Cian delegate asked, its voice like brittle glass. "Practice," Marcus quipped, then turned back to Drax. "Seriously, drink some water. It helps." Drax, still hunched over, took the glass of water offered by a cautious Thilian medic. He gulped it down in one go, then slammed the empty glass onto the table. His scales began to return to their usual green, but his breathing was still labored, and sweat glistened along the ridges of his spine. "This Everclear," he rasped, "is no beverage. It's a weapon." Marcus shrugged. "You're not wrong. That's why we dilute it or mix it into cocktails. No one with common sense drinks it straight." "Then why was it served this way?" a Zek delegate squawked, fluffing its feathers indignantly. "I tried to warn him," Marcus shot back, raising his hands in exasperation. A gelatinous Thilian blob rippled forward. "But humans still drink this substance, diluted or not." "Yeah, but even diluted, it's intense. Makes you feel warm, lightheaded, maybe even invincible. But if you overdo it..." Marcus glanced meaningfully at Drax. "Well, it can go south real quick. Nausea, confusion, loss of motor skills. Basically, your body lets you know it's not a fan of pure ethanol." Drax groaned, rubbing his temples. "You're going to be fine," Marcus said, patting his arm. "Though I'd recommend not moving for a bit. And maybe no sudden tail swings. Trust me, that stuff hits hard and doesn't let up." The Kren delegate, an amphibian-like being with glistening skin, blinked all three of its eyes in unison. "This Everclear must be immensely powerful if it can affect a Zirian this severely. Perhaps it is reserved for only the strongest of your species?" Marcus hesitated. "It's not about strength. It's about moderation. Respecting the drink. You don't just throw it back like water unless you're, well, not thinking straight." "And yet," the CELAC delegate interjected, your species willingly produces it. Why? Because we're complicated, Marcus admitted with a sheepish grin. Sometimes, humans like to push limits. And Everclear's about as far as you can push without falling off the edge. Madness, the Philian blob gurgled. Yeah, probably, Marcus agreed. Drax groaned again, drawing all eyes back to him. He sat up straighter in his chair, though his movements were slow and deliberate. I am not defeated, he declared, though his voice lacked its usual gravitas. This beverage will not best me. Buddy, it already did, Marcus said dryly. Drax ignored him, gripping the armrests as he tried and failed to stand. After a few moments, he slumped back with a defeated sigh. Perhaps a moment of rest is wise. The delegates exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of awe, horror, and begrudging respect. This Everclear, the Kren delegate croaked, is a testament to the resilience and recklessness of humanity. Marcus chuckled despite himself. Yeah, that about sums us up. As the medics moved in to monitor Drax, Marcus straightened up, dusting himself off. He could already see the curiosity in the alien delegate's eyes, the same spark that always led to trouble. Let's make something clear, Marcus said, addressing the room. No one else is trying this stuff tonight. Everclear is not just a drink. It's a responsibility. And if you don't handle it right, it'll handle you. The room murmured in reluctant agreement. Marcus had a sinking feeling that this wouldn't be the last he'd hear about humanity's strongest spirit.